Picture this. It's so dark out, you can't see your hand in front of your face, but you're standing beneath the sky ablaze with undulating ribbons of green. If you're lucky, maybe there's pinks, purples, or even blues. The air is crisp, the night is silent, and above you is nature's most spectacular light show. This, my friends, is the magic of the Northern Lights, and today I'm going to show you how to capture them with your camera. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin Donahue, and I'm a travel photographer and content creator based in New York City. In this video, we're heading to Lapland, Finland to chase the elusive aurora borealis. If you want to see my other videos of things I did while I was in Lapland and where I stayed, I've linked those videos. But for this is specifically photographing the Northern Lights. So let's go. Most people associate the Northern Lights with winter, but here's a little secret that experts know. The most active seasons are actually autumn and spring. Why? Because of Earth's orientation towards the sun. During these seasons, our planet's position maximizes the probability of solar flares interacting with the magnetic field. On average, the Northern Lights are most active between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., which is also why I prefer chasing the lights in autumn. You still get the longer daylight, those beautiful dark skies, all without the bone-chilling cold of winter. Standing in freezing temps is not the vibe. The main caveat to this, of course, is there won't be any snow-capped mountains or fields as foreground. But for me, that's something I'm totally fine foregoing. Miss me with that. 2024 through 2026 is also an exciting time because solar activity is expected to increase as the peak of solar cycle 25. The cycle can create a jump in sunspots and geomagnetic storms that could contribute to stronger aurora forecasts, which we saw in May and October 2024. I even photographed and saw the Northern Lights in New York City with my naked eye, something I thought was impossible because of all the light pollution. The Northern Lights came back. I can see them with my eyes. This is crazy. Just as we were done, we packed up, we were ready to go. We were like, you can see some green. And of course, as we're walking away, a couple people started crowding the riverfront with their phones. They could see it. So of course we ran back, and then it was bright. Like we see the pinks, the purples, or whatever. I see it with my eyes. Never thought I'd be able to see that with the New York City skyline. Also really cold right now, so I'm kind of short circuiting. This is crazy. You could actually see it with your eyes. That's how bright it is right now. I got the pinks right here. It wasn't my first rodeo in the Arctic Circle though. I've previously chased the lights in Narvik, Norway and Abisko, Sweden. Each location has its charm, but let me tell you because most people don't know this unless you actively research like I do. Abisko is low-key considered one of the best spots due to its unique microclimate that often results in clear skies. There's an 80% chance you'll see the Northern Lights in Abisko if you stay there at least 3 days. Tromsø in Norway is a popular spot, and of course, there's Rovaniemi. Finland is less popular, which is why I went. But here's the thing, if you're anywhere in the Arctic Circle, you've basically got a good chance of seeing the lights at some point. Personally, I prefer Europe for Northern Lights chasing. It's more economical and, believe it or not, often warmer compared to Alaska or Canada. Well, depending on the month. But don't rule those out, they're on my bucket list too. Now, let's talk about how to increase your chances of seeing the lights because it does need some planning. There are several apps available that can help predict aurora activity. I use these apps, which will alert you of Northern Lights sightings if you turn on the notifications. The NOAA website is also a fantastic resource. You'll hear a lot about KP Index, but KP Index predictions don't necessarily reflect actual conditions. You might have a prediction of KP5, but end up with a no-show, or vice versa. There might be a 0, and then all of a sudden the skies blow up before your very eyes. Instead, focus on factors like solar wind speed, density, and polarity. These are better indicators of aurora activity. I didn't think I had to mention this part, but I'm adding it anyway because there are many people out there who simply don't know this. Let me pose it as a question though. When physically looking for the Northern Lights, what direction should you be looking? Say it with me. The Northern Lights. For this trip, I decided to upgrade my gear so I could get the best content. You don't have to do this though. While I love my Sony a7 III, I wanted something that could handle extreme low light situations for both photo and video. After much deliberation, I rented the Sony a7S III. S stands for sensitive. It's a beast in low light, which is crucial when you're shooting in near total darkness. For my lens, I went with the Sigma 14mm f1.4. Why? Because when you're trying to capture the vastness of the night sky, you need to go as wide as possible. The 1.4 aperture lets in slightly more light than Sony's 14mm 1.8, which can make a huge difference when you're pushing your camera to its limits. Fair warning though, when I got the Sigma in the mail, I was flabbergasted. This lens is obnoxiously huge. I actually hate it. It's basically the size of a telephoto lens, but with only one function, and it took up so much space in my bag. I'm almost at a point in my career that I'll need to start traveling with a Pelican case, or, God forbid, start using check-in. Okay, so now that we've got our gear sorted, let's dive into the heart of aurora borealis photography, the camera settings. This is where the magic happens. Get these right and you'll be capturing images that'll make your Instagram followers green with envy. Pun intended. But remember, photographing the aurora is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. It requires a delicate balance of technical know-how and a bit of luck. So let's break down the settings for both photos and videos. For photos, these are just starting points. Similar to other long exposure stuff I've talked about, you'll need to adjust based on the intensity of the lights and the ambient light in your environment. Aperture should be as wide as possible or stop below, so f1.4 in my case. For shutter speeds, start between 1 to 5 seconds and adjust. For ISO, begin at 1600 to 3200 and then adjust as needed. For video, it's a different ballgame, and this is where things get a bit tricky. Normally, we follow the 180-degree shutter rule, which is a standard to achieve natural-looking motion blur in video by doubling the shutter speed to the frame rate. For example, if the frames per second, or FPS, is 24, then shutter speed is 1/50. If FPS is 30, then shutter is 1/60, etc, etc, you get the idea. In the dark Arctic night though, we need to break some rules. Aperture is wide open like for photos. For shutter speed, this is where it's different. Set it to match your frame rate. For example, if you're using 24 FPS, shutter speed should be 1/24. And then for ISO, prepare to push your camera to its limits. I had to crank mine up to 80,000. Yep, you heard that right. ISO 80,000. I've never used such a high ISO in my life, but this is precisely why I brought the A7S III, and I was quite impressed with the output. Don't be afraid of noise, just lean into it. These are raw clips straight out of the camera with no post-processing. Not too shabby, right? Now that you're armed with all this knowledge about timing, location, gear, and settings, you might think you're guaranteed to capture the perfect aurora shot. However, and this is what makes photographing the northern lights so exhilarating, there's always an element of unpredictability. Which brings me to my final thoughts on this topic. Photographing the northern lights is as much about patience and perseverance as it is about technical know-how. Some nights you might stand in the cold for hours and see nothing but a starry sky. Other nights, the heavens might suddenly explode in a symphony of colors that leave you scrambling for your camera gear and fumbling with your settings. Hopefully not though. Remember, no photo or video can truly capture the magic of seeing the aurora with your own eyes dancing in front of you. Obviously it helps when you have the memories, but while you're out there with your camera, don't forget to take a moment and simply look up. So, have you seen the northern lights? Drop a comment below and let me know about your experience. If you haven't seen them yet, but you're planning a trip to chase them, let me know where you're headed. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more travel and photography tips. Until next time, keep exploring and happy snapping. See you in the next video.